Part 2 of Edwy, a poem in 3 parts by Radcliffe. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Part 2. The Fairy Court. A Summer's Night in Windsor Park. Edwy in his lonely chamber, plying still his magic lore, watched, when all was hushed in slumber, the dead planetary hour. 2 crystal planes, 3 inches square, steeped in the blood of milk-white fowl, with careful skill he did prepare, 'gainst next should hoot the midnight owl. One would reveal the summoned fae, who by her divining art, should on the second plane display scenes to grieve or cheer his heart. Thus endowed to conjure faerie, he would fain have conjured sleep, but the god of lovers wary, hovers not o'er eyes that weep. Sad and restless all the morning, sad and restless all the noon, counting every chime of warning through the longest day of June. Thus he lingered, thus he wandered, round about his lady's hall, till his hopes were nearly foundered, till a rival spoke his fall. In an oriel he saw her, chatting, smiling, blooming, gay, doting, maddening, he bewailed her, doubting his first doubts this day. Breathing lilacs after showers, bending with the silver drops, greenest leaves and purple flowers, waving where the goldfinch hops, and scattering round the scented dew, and sparkling on the sunny air, not half so fresh as aura glow, not half so graceful, half so fair. Too soon she vanished from his eyes, and evening summoned him afar. Then to the high-browed park he hies, there must he meet the twilight star. With magic mirrors, hazel wand, eyelids touched with clearing spell, he sought the court of fairyland, hidden in their distant dell. Through the shaded walks so wide, that climb about the southern hill, Edwy passed with rapid stride, nor saw one elf, though all was still. With toil he gained the airy brow, and panting, paused to breathe a while, and throw a lingering look below, o'er the still landscape's parting smile. Crowning the long vista's shade, o'ertopped with turrets, terraced high, Windsor all its pomp displayed, beneath the glowing western sky. Beyond the low blue hills repose, along the far horizon's bound, how soft the hues the forest throws, its leafy darkness shedding round. Those hills their stretching woods display, in faint shade through the azure veil, while sweetly bright the setting ray bids many aspire once more farewell. And farewell to the banner proud, that o'er the broad keep floats on air, proclaiming as with trumpet loud its royal lord reposes there. Pale and more pale the scene retires, and Windsor's state has vanished now, save one dim tower that boldly spires to meet the star on twilight's brow. There stood he tranced, till in the air warbled music passed along, so softly sweet, so finely clear, this was sure a fairy song. For now no woodlark waked to sing, every little eye was closed, on slender foot, with drooping wing. In its home each bird reposed, save one, and where he winged his way, pleased Edwy heard his strain advance. On his smooth neck a fairy lay, or rather did a fairy dance. A veil of gossamer she wore, all spangled round with primrose dew, a starbeam for a wand she bore, which she from Venus slyly drew. This little bird on circling pinions wantoned over Edwy's head, then to its shady, loved dominions with its fairy lady sped. The while his fairy lady trills, to the beech woods follow me, up the lawns and o'er the hills, to the high woods follow me. In tiny echoes, follow me, all the hills and glades prolong, from every bush and hollow tree seemed to rise the choral song, and Edwy round each hollow tree spied the motley elves at play, while thick as emmets, follow me, they sang again and passed away. O'er greenest lawns, through proudest groves, he pursued his feathered guide, O'er scenes that silent moonlight loves, to the long lake's mossy side. The little bird flew o'er the lake, Edwy round the turf banks went, Close where the silver currents break, and lower oaks their branches bent. The stream is there with rocks inlaid, he tripped o'er these, and reached the road, That broad and turfy, 'neath the shade, leads to the pleasantest abode. Green above green, of every hue, the bordering trees in vista bend, Shrubs lay their low leaves on the dew, and pine and larch on light ascend. Galleries of verdure, all is green, here lawn and bending boughs below, Above 'tis stately shade, the scene seems made for glancing faerie show. But closer bowered, their noonday haunt rests in a hollow beechen dell, Its marge no human hand could plant, its shadows seem to breathe a spell. Now would you view the faeries' scene, where twilight dances print the lawn, Where it spreads out in softest green, to gaps whence distant landscapes dawn. High to the western forest gate, their Claudian beauty melts around, Their elfin turrets keep their state, and tell at once 'tis faerie ground. Or at that later evening hour, when the turf gladdens with the dew, That almost darkens Windsor's tower, and gives near hills a distant blue. And oh, if silence could be seen, thus would she look, so meek, so pale, The image of this very scene, when evening glances on the vale. Now Edwy reached the wood walks wild, that open from the watery glade, Where sweet vale lilies, violets mild, and primrose tufts the grass inlaid. Climbing the spiky blades and stems, gathering dews, were elves a million, Diamond drops and crystal gems to fringe their faerie queen's pavilion. And see what flaming lights appear, flashed through the foliage arching high, What silver horn winds sweet and clear, as breathing from the lips of joy. Sudden the elves on flower and blade forsake their task, and with a bound Touch the green turf and down the glade take hands and trip a welcome round. But Edwy hears no more the strain of his fleeting tiny lady, And watches for her bird in vain to lead him through the alleys shady. By him an elfin courier speeds, on grasshopper, his forest ways, Brushing the humble cowslip heads, while each its trembling homage pays. And next a winged beetle came, sounding deep his herald horn, The faerie sovereign to proclaim, and evil sprites away to warn. There whisked an Indian lantern fly, quick flashing forth its emerald sheen, Dancing low and dancing high, in many a ring of fiery green. Then came a creeping stilly breeze, that made the crisped waters live, That shivered all the sleeping trees, and bade the leaves their essence give. But see, the birds on every bough awake and stretch their ruffled wings, And o'er the dewy turf below his starry glance the glowworm flings. And the whole woodbank's flowery couch is sprinkled now with glimmering bands, Waiting their tiny queen's approach, her guards and lights to faerie lands. Again that horn of joy breathes fine, again the moonlight light waters shake, Where'er the foaming tips combine, rises a faerie of the lake. Half veiled within the sparkling strife, his inexperienced eyes scarce see The pale forms changing into life, till all is glowing pageantry. True to their sovereign's summons they, upon the lake's enchanted shore, Await her presence proud and gay, where rides the fleet to waft her o'er. And now a spicy rare perfume, such as breathes from Indian dells, Fills all the high wood's leafy dome, and the fine faerie presence tells. And faint aerial strains are heard, as through the rich festooning ways The queen in moonlit pomp appears, amongst 10,000 dancing fays. By gold and purple butterflies her rose-leaved car was drawn in air, Above, two birds of paradise arched o'er her head their plumage rare, while far around her dancing beams, that with bright rainbow colors glow, strike on the gloom in transient gleams, and all her elfin escort show. All in the busy air around, pert eyes and little wings are seen, and voices whisper, feathers sound, attendant on their elfin queen. A robe of silvery snow she wore, frosted with magic art so true, that the hot breath of midsummer could never change it into dew. And wafted by her happy bird, a courtier fairy oft proclaims, "Now let the mirthful song be heard, our Lady Queen a welcome claims." The little bird too 'gan to sing, and then the fairy tried her voice, as gaily as the airs of spring did that poor little bird rejoice. The measure changed, a languid call, sweet with sorrow, thrice it sounded, concluding in a dying fall, softer than air fountain rounded. O nightingale, it was thy song, sent through the woods that dying close. I know thee now, the note prolong, O speak again those tender woes. Under the boughs the elfin train mutely listened to the measure, but when he trilled his joy again, they beat the ground in antic pleasure. O bird of feeling, various, sweet, thee and thy guardian friend I hail. I know thee now, and gladly greet the love-fay and her nightingale. All fly before the elfin queen, toward the lake's high crowned head, near where the forest oaks begin a reverential gloom to spread. With thousand sparks the woodbank swarms, her glowworm knights in long array, marshalled by firefly, king at arms, guard her and light her on her way. Where'er they move, the drowsy flowers unclose their leafy curtains far, and fays asleep within their bowers leap forth and dance before her car. Dance to that crystal lake's green side, that winds through fir-crowned lawns and woods, whose beeches old in giant pride fling their broad shadows on the floods. And oft they wanton with the surge, that flowing near the fairy court, its silver line on line did urge, as if to tempt and share their sport, as if to woo the elfin queen to float upon its moonlight breast, pleased to unfold each margent scene, and bear her to her bower of rest. The smile that played upon its face, she seemed by magic lore to read, and with a kind and sportive grace, she bade her tiny sailors speed. A fleet of pleasure boats lay there, such vessels as befit a sprite. The water lilies schooners were, leaf after leaf outspreading white, their skiffs fresh gathered from the lime, their acorn barges broad and deep, so safe that e'en in tempest time an elf upon his oars might sleep, and in his heart of oak could go, his tiny dreadnought singing gay, spite of the winds and rocks below, round every fairy cliff and bay. Sweet wherries of long lavender, blossoms of every shape and stain, from bluebell yachts to bird pepper, attended for the courtier train. But their bright queen more proudly sailed in a pearl shell ship of the line. By water mouse ear was she veiled, and she was fanned with eglantine. Her canopy, bedropped with gold, had floated on an Indian tide. A lotus leaf with ample fold swelled for her sail in snowy pride. The cordage was of silver thread, spun of fine bark of ashen tree, the mast of sandalwood, the head a living dolphin seemed to be. Her green knights watched upon the shrouds, or ranged them far along the prow, stood round their queen in radiant crowds, or gleamed far on the wave below. And others ranked as on a cone, stage above stage of towery height, moved on the lake around her throne, proud floating pyramids of light. Above them all, then might you spy, in busy care, high o'er the mast, their king at arms, Sir Lanternfly, ordering the pageant as it passed, and glancing down the moonlight air, he checked the lily schooner's way, and whisking here and whisking there, recalled each blossom sail astray. Then self-triumphant in the van, in airy circles pleased he danced, yet while he led the revel on, back for his queen's applauses glanced. And thus in gliding state she went o'er the long windings of the wave, where many a watchful eye was bent from hollow oak and secret cave. The screech owl and the snake were there, the boding raven, cruel kite, that fill the timid heart with care, and love to prowl in moonless night. But chief on the old forest's bound, where the still waters sink away, such evil agents walk their round, or lurk within the oaks so grey. Bewildered in the wild wood glades, Edwy oft lost the long lake's side, till through some deep grove's opening shades he saw the splendid vision glide. Low glanced the silver oars along, quick came the spires of glow-worm light, that round their queen's tall galley throng, shooting long beams aslant the night. These trembling through the branches' dome, touching each leaf with transient joy, now seen, now lost, from gloom to gloom, showed like the stars when clouds fleet by. Then over banks and under woods, Edwy pursued the pageant's way, till having reached the smiling floods, the frolic shores his hopes betray. For winding back his course they mar, leaving him on some jutting steep, mid the lone waters, while afar the inmost bay the fairies sweep. And thus through wilds and woods he toiled, lured by short glimpse of that bright train, which through the distant shadows smiled, as if in mockery of his pain. Till once again he heard remote that gentle bird, faithful to lovers, and following the high warbled note, again the fairy fleet discovers, just as it touched the farther shore, to land the queen those groves among, when still was every little oar, and every white sail breathless hung. No sound was heard but music's voice, roused by the motley elfin band, who play in moonshine, and rejoice in choral welcomes o'er the strand. The groves that hovered o'er the brink, the polished lake more dark returns, and each bright star in emerald twink beneath the wave more keenly burns. And there the rival of their beams, reflected by the glass below, a shooting star Sir Firefly seems, while marshalling the fairy show. Each shroud and sail of fairy bark, each glittering oar and image fair, within that mirror, blue and dark, lay like a picture, penciled fair. But when Sir Firefly's knights moved on, and their green torches mutely raised, then all the fairies' splendor shone, and shores and woods and waters blazed. Thus ranged in vista lines of light, moving beneath the leafy gloom, where forest oaks spread deepest night, they guard her to her sylvan home. Under an ancient beech that high outhung its spray, her dreams of night were veiled from every curious eye, save when with magic virtue bright, its mighty boughs a circle filled, like necromantic guard it stood, its air severe the wanderer chilled, its frown and haughty attitude. Soon as that beechen shade she reached, rustled its every leaf for joy, then gracefully her wand she stretched, and lighted all its leaves on high. Yet flame of torch or lamp was none, nor any glittering sparkle there. It seemed as if the setting sun tinged the rich spray with rosy air. Her bower through many chambers ranged, and each a different purpose showed. This oft with mystic shadows changed, that for the dance or banquet glowed. Beyond them all her cell of rest, in verdant shade and silence lay, save when the ring-dove in her nest sung all her gentle cares away. And sleepy leaves, scarce moved in air, or only swayed by breezes fleet, with the lake's murmuring falls afar, made melody most sad and sweet. Lime blossoms strewed the mossy floor, and breathed a dewy fragrance round, inviting her to slumbers pure, while freshness seemed to bless the ground. Yet here sometimes this queen of dreams would weave such seeming forms of fate, as sent upon the still moonbeams, oft by the midnight sleeper wait. Hid in her cool bower might she view the noontide lake and sunny lawns, the slow sail on the waters blue, and through the breaks the fleeting fawns, and watch them on the watery brim, bending to sip the dainty wave. Then starting at the form so slim, the shadowed crystal truly gave. Unseen she traced each step that roved, rejoicing on that margent green, or sought the hills and groves beloved, that crown with pleasant shade the scene. Edwy had joined the faery's train, just as she reached her leafy dome, while full arose the choral strain of welcome to her beechen home. Her glow-worm knights, wide round the beach, in glimmering circles take their stand. Adder nor bird of boding speech, nor step unblessed may pass that band. In front, high on the beechen spray, like Hesper on the eastern dawn, Sir Firefly spreads his watchful ray o'er dell obscure and distant lawn. No shape among the shadows there could glide unseen, nor move where frowned that beech's wizard brows in air, and shrink not from the mystic ground, save Edwy with his magic spell. Invisible and fearless he might pass e'en to the fairy's cell, unknown, but of one enemy. She tripped into her vestibule, arched high with rose and eglantine, breathing a fragrance light and cool, and bright with dewdrops crystalline. Here many a bell, that in the day had hung its fainting head awry, now waked for her in beauty gay, and breathed for her its perfumed sigh. Her pavilion next she entered, clear the glassy columns shone. To the turf steps Edwy ventured, and beheld her on her throne. Under an even arch reclining, with brilliant drops all thickly hung, where mimosa's leaves were twining, she listened while the love-fay sung. The thousand dewdrops hanging there, and in the swelling dome on high, trembled with radiance keen and fair, poured from her living diamond's eye. Splendor and joy around her moved, and winning smiles beamed in her face, and every virtue most beloved gave to her a tender grace. On the ruby pavement stealing, circling elves their homage gave, then in quaint morescos reeling, they dance and airy garlands wave. The silver triangle, the lute, the tambourine with tiny bells, mix with the softly breathing flute, the mellow horn more distant swells. A quaint and various group arrived, one flitting on a bat's wing came, no orchard where he haunted thrived, malignant Elphant was his name. One upon a field mouse gliding, oft the traveller appalled, wondrously his steps misguiding, sly Elphana she was called. A third upon a squirrel springing, never rested night or day, into some droll mischief bringing, solemn heads as well as gay. On butterfly next sailed a fairy, she soothes fine ladies in their vapor, who of unchanging good are weary, and weep because they've naught to weep for. Winged by an owl, there came an elf, who loved to haunt the study table, where full of grave important self, the wisest head he would disable, and make it pro and con and fight on subjects lofty as the steeple, or tempt some witling to indite long dreams about the elfin people. And now the fairy queen demanded whether her elves the tasks had done that at sunset she had commanded. And now she called them one by one. She called them, but they came not all. Again the magic horn was wound, then thronging sprites obeyed the call, but still some truants wild were found. Yet was this blast so distant heard, that elves on Windsor's battlement mounted the moonbeams at its word, and o'er the long walk gaily went, nor stayed upon the tufts to dance of the broad bowery way that swept with utmost pomp beneath their glance, though there the yellow moonlight slept. Though many a bird they loved was hid in silent rest beneath the leaves, which if awaked and gently bid, would sing the song that care deceives. Yet had they surely waked them too, and danced amorous on the trees, had not the horn complaining blew, like coming of a tempest breeze. But e'en the fairies' summons failed, yielding awhile to beauty's spell, when Windsor's proudest groves they hailed, crowning its wildest, deepest dell. They paused a moment on that brow, under the shading oaks they strayed, to spy beneath the branches low, the moonlight towers beyond their shade. Beyond that shade in peace they lay, gates, turrets, battlements aloft, just silvered by the distant ray, that 'neath the dark boughs glimmered oft. It seemed some vision of the air, by magic raised in forest lone, that held entranced some lady fair, till nodding towers her knight should own. The horn again, but not like breeze before some gentle summer shower, but rushing through the frighted trees, e'en with an angry whirlwind's power. The moonlight castle sinks and fades beneath the tossing boughs afar, and fear the truant elves invades, and swift they mount their beamy car. No banquet in the bower for them, no tripping strains their steps invite, the fairy sovereign will condemn their disobedience and their slight. Hence, she cries, a vision weave for the couch of that false lover, who would a trusting heart deceive. Hence, and o'er his slumber hover, dance before him like a shade, trace upon his sleeping eye, image of that mournful maid, whom he won and left to die. In my cell of shadows look, you will there the semblance see, of the damsel he forsook, all from idle vanity. Touch his heart with jealousy, shape a dream to rouse despair, then to the sad maiden flee, and expel her silly care. So when the streaky dawn doth wake, each shall rise with changed intent, each shall the other's fortune take, he despair, and she content. If these dreams ye shadow well, return before the lark is up, or the chime of matin bell, dance the morris, sip the cup. Now farewell! Scarce had she spoke when all the bower as in a twilight shadow lay. The dewy lamp on every flower quivered first, then died away. Her magic diamond warned the queen of step unhallowed passing near. It paled its ray to trembling green, and shrunk with sympathetic fear. Then hastily the queen exclaimed, some mortal footsteps pressed the ground, for Edwy, when the elves she named had nearer drawn to catch the sound. Just then the little nightingale, in pity of the lover's pain, sung from Mimosa's shadowy vale his softest, sweetest, saddest tale, which well he knew his queen would win from aught ungracious or severe. With charmed attentive brow serene, she smiled, and dashing off a tear, on Ada called, the love-fay thrice, some tale of mortal truth to tell. Her name did Edwy's heart rejoice, for that fay's name completes his spell. Then straight the bower began to show returning light, and through each bud, from faintness freed to living glow, circled the bright transparent blood. Now what of chastisement befell this vagrant swain for his intrusion, village tradition does not tell, or tells with most profound confusion. But this most gossips do relate, that though he was not held in durance, he gained no knowledge of his fate, and nothing got by his assurance, unless it be that he did see, what seldom had been seen before, a fairy court in starlight sport, with pleasure squadrons and on shore. But haply on some other day we may learn more of his manoeuvres, and then we shall not fail to say what came of Aura and her lovers. End of part 2.